out on the far edge of the galaxy, past the stars that most ships never reach. A quiet whisper was moving from one alien world to another. A whisper about humans. They're weak. They're noisy. They're harmless. For years, the great powers of the galaxy believed the same thing. Humans were small. Humans were fragile. Humans were not a threat. At least that's what everyone thought. But all it took was one human, one moment, and just a few minutes, to prove the entire galaxy wrong. This story is about that moment. It all began on a dull, ordinary morning. A human survey ship went missing somewhere beyond known space. No one knew where it had gone. No distress call. No trace. But the truth was simple. The ship had been taken by the Zartek Dominion, one of the most feared warrior species in the galaxy. Tall, armored skin, claws like metal blades, and a long history of breaking weaker species just for sport. To them, humans were little more than animals. From the entire crew, they kept only one human alive. Raiden Cole. He didn't look strong. He didn't look dangerous. He looked normal. Almost plain. Which made the Zartek laugh even harder. They dragged him into their training halls, a place where they tested and broke any species they thought was beneath them. The challenge was simple. If the captives survived, they were changed forever. If they didn't, the Zartek didn't care. Today, they expected just another weak creature to snap like dry wood. But today, everything was going to change. The hall was cold and grey. Strange tools filled the walls, chains, clamps, shock rods, and things no human had ever seen. Raiden stood in front of a thick metal plate. His hands were bound. 3 elite Zartek guards surrounded him. Their leader, General Raz, stepped forward. A giant of a creature. Eyes glowing like burning coals. Human, Raz growled. Your kind talks too much. Today you will learn what real strength is. Raiden looked back at him. Quiet, still, completely calm. Raz didn't like that. Not at all. Begin, one guard barked. A powerful shock hit Raiden's body, strong enough to drop most humans in seconds. But Raiden remained standing. He breathed out slowly. No scream. No begging. No sign of fear. The guards looked confused. Is the power low? One asked. Raz snapped. No, he's just too stupid to feel pain. The second shock hit him. 3 times stronger. Raiden's face tightened for a moment. But he stayed solid. Still no scream. Still no fear. His quietness. His calmness. It made the alien soldiers uneasy. Very uneasy. Then something happened that the Zartek had never seen before. Raiden looked up, straight into the general's burning red eyes. And he spoke. Just one simple sentence. You think humans are weak? Raiden said softly. Only because you've never actually watched one properly. The hall fell silent. The guards stepped back. Raz's face darkened. What did you just say? He snarled. Raiden lifted his head higher. A quiet, steady smile on his face. I could try to explain it to you, he said. But it's easier if you see it for yourselves. His voice was calm. Too calm. And that scared the Zartek more than any weapon ever had. This was the moment. The moment the galaxy's oldest fear began to take shape. The fear of the one species everyone underestimated. And within the next few minutes, they would learn exactly why humans are never as helpless as they look. The hall stayed silent for a long second. The Zartek guards stared at Raiden, unsure whether he was stupid or dangerous. General Raz stepped closer. His heavy footsteps echoed through the metal floor. You humans break easily, he growled. You bend. You cry. You shatter. Raiden tilted his head slightly. Do I look broken to you? Khraz didn't like that at all. He signaled to the guards. Restrain him, use full power. A thick metal clamp locked around Raiden's arms. Another around his legs. A final one snapped shut behind his neck. They had used these devices to break whole species. But Raiden was calm. Almost too calm. The guards lifted the shock rods again. Let's see how long this one lasts, one hissed. The shock that should have ended him. The air buzzed. The circuits hummed. The rods glowed bright orange. Then, a blast of electrical force hit Raiden's body. A wave of pure pains. Enough to put a full-grown human in hospital. Or worse. The Zartek watched closely. At first they saw his muscles tense. His jaw tighten. But then something strange happened. Raiden lifted his head, looked right at them, and spoke clearly. Is that all? The guards froze. Khraz blinked. No one had ever said that before. The human body and the human mind. Raiden explained quietly. You think strength is just muscle. But humans aren't made that way. Our bodies bend. They adapt. They survive. One guard hissed. You shouldn't be standing. Raiden nodded. I know, but humans were born on a world full of danger. Fire, storms, cold, heat, poisons. Animals with teeth bigger than your hands. He leaned forward just a little. As far as the metal restraints allowed. We didn't get strong by being tough. We got strong by learning to suffer. And keep going. Khraz barked. Humans do not understand pain. Raiden's eyes locked onto his. You have no idea what pain humans live with. For a moment the general stepped back. Not because Raiden threatened him. Not because he moved. Not because he fought. But because of the sound of his voice. It was the voice of someone who had seen storms the Zartek could not imagine. The restraints start to break. Metal creaked. A long, slow sound. The guards looked at each other. Check the clamps, one said quickly. The other scanned them. They're fine, they're at full lock. Raiden exhaled deeply. A calm, steady breath. Then the clamps shifted. Just a little. But enough. Khraz roared. Impossible, those restraints can hold 4 Zartek. Raiden shook his head. You built them for creatures who fight because they're angry. Humans don't fight like that. He looked down at the clamps around his wrists. We fight for meanings. For purpose. For people we love. For things we believe in. The metal cracked again. A thin line formed across the clamp. The guards stepped back in fear. General, he's breaking them. Fear begins to spread. Khraz shouted. Throw him down, use force. But none of the guards moved. Their hands shook. Their claws twitched. For the first time in their lives, they were afraid of a creature they thought was weak. Raiden raised his head. His voice quiet. Controlled. Dangerously steady. Do you want to know the real human strengths? Khraz stepped back. Raiden leaned forward as the metal restraints bent under the pressure of his arms. It's not our muscles. It's not our bones. He looked directly at the generals. It's our will. And with one final push, crack, the wrist clamp snapped apart like cheap plastic. The guards jumped back. One dropped his weapons. Another stumbled over his own feet. Raiden pulled the second clamp apart. Then the ones around his legs. Then the one behind his neck. Pieces of shattered metal fell to the ground. The room fell silent. completely silent. A human had just broken the unbreakable, and he hadn't even raised his voice. The first step toward fear. Raiden stepped forward slowly. Not with rage, not with violence, but with calm, measured steps. Now he said softly, "Shall we continue your little test?" HFY didn't answer. His guards didn't breathe. And that was the moment, the exact moment, when the Zartek Dominion realized something they had never considered before. Humans were not harmless. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not prey. Humans were something far more dangerous. A species that refuses to break, no matter what stands in their way. The air inside the hall felt different now. A moment ago, the Zartek guards were amused, relaxed, certain of their strength. But now, they stood frozen, unsure, shaken. Raiden didn't shout. He didn't run. He didn't raise his fists. He simply stood there, calm, steady, unbroken. And that alone frightened them more than any weapons. The guards lose control. One of the guards finally snapped. "He's a threat. General, order the strike." HFY didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on the human who had just broken Zartek's steel like it was nothing. The guard panicked and lifted his shock rod. Raiden didn't move. Not a muscle. The guard hesitated. Why wasn't the human scared? Why didn't he flinch? Why didn't he even blink? Raiden spoke softly. "If you were going to strike, you'd have done it already." The guard froze completely. His hands shook. He had been taught that humans scream, shake, and beg. He had not been taught what to do when a human stared back like a storm in human skin. Raiden makes his move. Raiden stepped forward. Just one step. That alone made all three guards take 3 steps back. He didn't attack. He simply raised one hand and placed it on his own chest. You think strength is about power. But humans, we are built for challenge. He tapped his chest lightly. This inside. This is what you never understood. Another step. The guards stumbled again. Raiden wasn't tall. He wasn't heavily built. He didn't have armor or claws or glowing red eyes. But he carried something far more dangerous. Purpose. A lesson the Zartek never expected. "You judge us by our bodies," Raiden said quietly. "But our bodies aren't our limit." He pointed to his head. "It's our mind." Then he pointed to the center of his chest again. "And it's our heart." The hall felt colder. Even HFY's breath grew shallow. No species had ever spoken like this in their testing chambers. Raiden continued. "You wanted to see what humans are. So I'll show you." He looked at the nearest guard. A creature twice his size. "Try to hit me." The guard blinked. He wasn't sure he heard correctly. What?" Raiden repeated. "Go on. Hit me." The guard looked at HFY for permission. HFY hesitated. For the first time in his life. But pride won. He growled. "Do it." The strike that changed everything. The guard roared and swung a steel baton with full force. A blow that could break stones. A blow that could crush bones. Raiden didn't block. He didn't dodge. He stepped into the swing. The baton hit his shoulder. A sharp, painful impact. Raiden's face tightened for a single second. Then he looked up. Straight into the guard's eyes. Completely calm. "I felt worse." The guard's mouth opened in shock. Raiden's voice stayed level. "You think pain controls us. But you don't understand what humans live with." He stepped forward, pushing the baton aside. "We break bones. We lose people. We fall. We bleed. Another step. We suffer. And we keep going. The guard tried to strike again, but Raiden caught the baton midair. His fingers closed around it like a trap. Metal bent. The guard froze. "What are you?" he whispered. Raiden answered softly. "Humans." Then he twisted. The baton snapped in two. Panic takes over the room. The second guard dropped his weapon. The third backed into the walls. HFY stepped forward in a blind rage. "Enough! This human is nothing." Raiden turned his head slowly. "No, you're just seeing humans for the first time." HFY roared and charged. But Raiden didn't move until the very last moment. At the exact second the general swung, Raiden slipped to the side. Light, smooth, quick. HFY's massive arm missed completely. He stumbled forward off balance. Raiden leaned in close to his ear and whispered, "You don't need claws to win a fight. You just need to know when to move." HFY spun around in frustration. Raiden simply stepped back, hands lowered, posture relaxed. He wasn't fighting like a warrior. He was fighting like a human. Smart, patient, unshaken. The power shift begins. Raiden looked around the halls. The broken weapons. The frightened guards. The furious general who couldn't land a single hit. And he said something that would be recorded in Zartek history forever. "You didn't capture a weak creature today. You captured a human." Then he added softly, "And that was your first mistake." The general opened his mouth to roar again. But this time, nobody moved with him. Even his own soldiers were too terrified to step forward. The power in the room had shifted. And for the first time ever, a single human stood above 3 elite Zartek guards and their general. The room went silent. The aliens watched Adam like he was some strange creature. One of them whispered, "Why isn't he crying? Why isn't he scared?" Adam looked straight at the metal face of the leader and said softly, "You don't know humans at all, do you?" The leader tilted his head. He was confused. He had tortured thousands across the galaxy. But no one had ever spoken to him like that. The leader leaned closer. "What do you mean?" Adam smiled, but not a friendly smile. A smile that said, "You made a mistake bringing me here." He whispered, "Humans don't break the way you think. We bend, then we snap back harder." The alien stepped back. He wasn't used to being talked to like this. He turned to his guards. "Increase the pain level." The table lit up again. Bright red. Hot. Buzzing. Ready to scorch him. Adam didn't flinch. Instead, he did something even the aliens didn't expect. He relaxed. He breathed slowly. His heart rate stayed calm. One guard looked at the screen and said, "His stress levels, they're dropping." "Impossible, that's impossible." Adam opened his eyes and said, "You think pain scares me? I've lived through worse than this." The aliens stared. They didn't know what worse meant on Earth. But they could feel the weight of those words. The leader asked, "What gives you this strength?" Adam replied, "The same thing that makes humans dangerous. We fight back, especially when we are scared." The aliens exchanged nervous looks. For the first time since Adam arrived, they were the ones feeling fear. And Adam noticed it. He smiled again. "Let's begin, shall we?" Because now, Adam wasn't just surviving. He was planning. And the aliens had no idea that the real torture session was about to flip completely. The hall was tense. The Zartek guards no longer laughed. They no longer assumed anything. They were afraid. Adam stood in the center. Calm. Controlled. Like a storm waiting to strike. He didn't move violently. He didn't shout. He simply studied the room. Every weapons, every crack in the floors, every nervous twitch of the guards. He was learning faster than they expected. The first move. The leader, still furious, signaled the guards. Surround him, don't let him escape. They advanced slowly, unsure. Every step was cautious. Adam waited. Then, with a small shift of weight, he caused the floor panel beneath one guard to tilt slightly. The guard lost balance. He stumbled and fell flat on the cold metal floor. Two others froze. Adam took a step forward. Don't just stand there, he said calmly. Humans fight smart, not just strong. Turning the hall against them. The hall was full of devices designed to control and intimidate. Adam saw a small pressure lever near the wall. One flick of his boot. A chain snapped loose. It wrapped around the second guard's leg. He fell. The leader roared. Hold him now. But Adam was already moving. Every step calculated. Every movement a trap. He forced the remaining guard into a narrow corridor where the shadows gave him cover. The guard swung his weapon wildly. But Adam dodged easily. Every attack the Zartek tried, Adam anticipated, countered, turned against them. The fear spreads. The leader's eyes widened. This human, he muttered. He's not normal. Adam stopped. He faced the general calmly. Hands at his sides. I don't need to fight you with strength, he said. I fight with strategy, with wit. With understanding that your mind will always move slower than mine. The leader took a step forward. And for the first time in his life, he hesitated. Adam smiled slightly. This is why humans are dangerous. The leader snapped a command, but the guards were already too nervous to follow. Adam wasn't just surviving anymore. He was in control. And the Zartek were finally seeing the truth. Humans are not to be underestimated. The calm before the finale. The hall fell silent. The guards had no weapons in hand. The general was breathing heavily. Adam stood tall, relaxed. Every movement deliberate. Every eye in the room on him. In that silence, one thing became clear. The hunter had become the hunted. And all it had taken was a few minutes. A few minutes to show that humans are stronger than steel, smarter than brute force, and far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. The hall was still. Every Zartek guard frozen in fear. The general's eyes blazed with fury and disbelief. Adam took a slow step forward. No weapons raised. No anger. Just calm confidence. You thought I was weak, he said softly, but every word carried weight. You thought humans were helpless. You were wrong. The final flip. The general roared and charged, claws extended, trying to end the human in one strike. Adam sidestepped with perfect timing. The general stumbled into his own trap. One of the hanging chains from the ceiling, loosened earlier by Adam, fell and entangled the general's arm. He struggled. He roared. But Adam stepped closer, eyes steady. This isn't just strength. It's strategy. It's patience. It's understanding your limits before you even try to challenge mine. The general looked around. Every guard had already been outmaneuvered. They were no longer soldiers, they were terrified witnesses. The humans, the one they had mocked, had become the master of the hall. The lesson the galaxy learned. Adam stood tall, hands at his sides, breathing steady, eyes calm. The Zartek realized something profound. Humans are not fragile. Humans are not predictable. Humans are far more dangerous than steel or fire. The general, humiliated and restrained by his own traps, finally understood the truth. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Adam spoke one final time, his voice echoing in the hall. We don't need weapons to fight. We don't need to roar. We only need to be humans. Aftermath. The guards slowly backed away. The general stayed still, silently acknowledging defeat. Adam walked to the center of the hall. He looked at the machines, the weapons, the steel. All meant to control him. They were useless against his mind. Useless against his will. For the first time, the Zartek Dominion had been humbled. By one humans. Alone. Unbroken. And the story would be remembered for millennia. The human who could not be broken. So remember this. Across the galaxy, creatures believed humans were weak. They underestimated them. They mocked them. And in just a few minutes, one human proved them all wrong. Strength is not always in the body. Power is not always in the weapons. True power comes from will, mind, and courage. Humans are living proof. And the Zartek will never forget it.